Welcome to Shatter.
Support the channel by liking, commenting, and subscribing. I promise even more interesting stories. It was a rooftop dinner party. Warm lights. Smooth jazz from someone's Bluetooth speaker. I was holding her hand, genuinely enjoying the night, when it happened. Her laugh. That laugh that used to belong to me. But now, it was aimed at someone else's joke. His name was Jared. A co-worker, allegedly. Too familiar. Too effortless with her. And I caught it. The way she touched his arm mid-laugh. Fingers lingering half a second too long. Then came the line. He said it like a throwaway. You're way too fun to be tied down. And she didn't deny it. Just smiled. Didn't look at me. That was the moment I stopped being angry. That was the moment I understood something she hadn't even said out loud. I was convenient. Not exciting. I didn't cause a scene. I didn't grip her hand tighter or whisper questions in her ear. I just went still. And silent. Because the second you hear something that real, you don't argue with it. You archive it. The rest of the night was a blur. Her laughing, socializing, sipping from her glass like nothing had cracked. I watched her move like a woman who had already detached. Like a version of her had already left me. I could hear my own pulse in my ears, but outside, I smiled. I said goodbye to people. I even offered Jared a handshake. She didn't notice. In the Uber home, she scrolled through photos from the night. Posted a group shot. No caption, just a heart emoji. I was in the background, blurry, cropped near the edge. That was the last time I appeared on her social media. I didn't ask questions. I didn't start a fight when we got home. I walked in, changed into gym clothes, and told her I'd be back late. Her response? Okay, don't wait up. That was the first night I didn't sleep next to her. People think betrayal begins with screaming, tears, accusations. But it doesn't. It starts with a whisper you're not supposed to hear. A glance that lingers too long. A smile meant for someone else. That night, I started paying attention, not to her lies, but to my silence. Because silence is a strategy. And mine had just begun. She didn't know it, but the 30 days she thought she had left? I'd already started the countdown. Not to win her back, but to disappear in a way that would echo longer than any goodbye ever could. 3 days later, I was in the break room at work when Marcus, my colleague, slid his phone across the table. Man, tell me that's not your wife. I froze. The screen showed a story reposted from someone's night out. A dim bar. Red light. 2 figures. Her and Jared. Her hand on his thigh. His fingers brushing her jaw. I stared at the photo. Quiet. Calm. That wasn't shock anymore. It was data. Marcus winced. I wasn't trying to be a jerk, man. I just thought you should know. I nodded once, slid the phone back, and finished my coffee. No panic. No confrontation. I walked back to my desk and pulled up her calendar, the one she'd shared with me last year for openness and communication. Dinner with coworkers. That's what tonight said. I closed the tab. At home, I didn't ask where she was. Didn't mention the photo. I cooked a steak, ate alone, cleaned up. When she came in close to midnight, her hair a little tousled, lipstick slightly smudged, she offered a tired hey. I nodded from the couch. She went straight to the shower. I didn't follow. The shift had begun. She still thought she was in control. Still believed I was orbiting her sun, waiting for warmth. But I was already in a different system entirely. She left her phone on the counter the next morning. Notifications popped up. One name repeated. Jared. No last name. Just an emoji next to it. I didn't look deeper. I didn't need to. Truth has a smell, and it was all over her. Later that evening, I sat in the garage with the door half open, just breathing. The air was cool. Quiet. I hadn't told anyone. Not friends. Not family. This wasn't for sharing. This was for building. Building what? An exit. A clean, deliberate one. The first part was stopping the bleeding. No more emotional investment. No more reactions. The second was control. So I started small. Changed my banking password. Opened a new account. Quietly redirected my paycheck. She never asked about money. Why would she? I handled everything. She thought love was leverage. She was about to learn what silence does when it's weaponized. That night, she asked if I'd done laundry. I looked her in the eye and said, no, then turned back to my laptop. That was it. She blinked. Confused. Just a tiny crack. The first fracture in her illusion. And I didn't even raise my voice. The problem with lying is that people get lazy. They forget the details they've already fabricated. And I was just quietly collecting them. I didn't go through her phone. I didn't follow her. I didn't need to. Patterns speak louder than passwords. She started dressing differently. Her yoga pants and sweatshirts were replaced with tailored blouses and lipstick. And always, on Tuesdays and Thursdays. Those were her freelance work days. The same days Jared's stories showed wine glasses, overhead shots of gourmet lunches, and once, a blurred photo of someone wearing her bracelet. I noticed everything. Receipts started changing, too. Her credit cards synced to the shared budget app until she turned off the sync. Claimed it was glitchy. I smiled and let it go. She thought I wasn't looking, but I was documenting. I created a private folder. I named it Proof. Screenshots, timestamps, side-by-side comparisons of her excuses and reality. I didn't plan to use it. I just needed to see it compiled in one place. To remove any shadow of doubt. Because that's the thing about betrayal. You feel it long before you see it. But once you see it, you stop feeling anything at all. One night, she left her laptop open. Notifications pinged from her desktop calendar. A meeting at a hotel, tagged under brand strategy. The same hotel she'd once said was overpriced and tacky. Funny how suddenly it became her go-to for business. I took a screenshot and closed the laptop. Later that evening, she made us pasta. Out of nowhere. Tried to laugh with me. Asked about my day. I answered, flat and neutral. Gave her just enough to maintain the illusion of safety. She looked relieved. That was good. She needed to feel secure, for now. That weekend, she went to a networking retreat. I packed her car, kissed her forehead, told her to have fun. And then I drove straight to my bank. Closed the joint savings. Transferred my investments. Updated my insurance beneficiaries. All in silence. Not a single text. Not a single warning. The best part? She still thought she was ahead. Still believed she was choosing between two lives, when one of them was already walking away without a sound. The face in my mirror was different now. Sharper. Colder. My shoulders felt lighter. It wasn't revenge. It wasn't spite. It was clarity. She wanted freedom? She had no idea what that word really meant. But she was about to learn. It started with silence. No goodbye. No explanation. I just didn't come home that night. She texted once. Where are you? I didn't answer. By the second day, she called. Twice. Straight to voicemail. I watched the screen light up in my hotel room. I let it ring. No emotion. No satisfaction. Just quiet. The kind of quiet you earn. I'd booked a suite under my middle name at a business hotel 30 minutes out of town. Simple. Clean. Untraceable. Paid cash. My phone's location was disabled. My credit card's dormant. The silence was surgical. I kept my phone on airplane mode except when I needed it. I checked my bank account. Untouched. Good. She hadn't noticed. Yet. I ordered room service, opened my laptop, and started writing. Not messages. Not explanations. Plans. Everything was already in motion. Investments protected, lawyer briefed, documents prepped. Now I just needed her to spiral. And she would. Day 3. She emailed. Subject line, just talk to me. I didn't open it. Instead, I scrolled through her social media. She'd gone quiet. No selfies. No stories. No group shots. The digital vacuum spoke volumes. She didn't know what to say because she didn't know where I was or why. Perfect. By the end of the week, my friend Chris sent a text. You okay? Jenna said your wife's been asking around. I replied, I'm good. Just clearing my head. He didn't ask more. That's why I trusted him. Back home, she was unraveling. Calling my coworkers. Messaging mutual friends. Even contacted my brother. I told him the basics. I'm alive. I'm fine. I just needed space. He said she sounded shaken. Said her voice cracked when she asked if I was with someone else. I wasn't. That would have made it too easy for her to feel like the victim. No, this wasn't about someone else. It was about absence. Not cheating, removal. She thought I'd go quietly. She didn't expect to feel it. Day 10, she left a voicemail. The first one I actually listened to. Her voice was shaky. She said she was scared. Said we needed to talk. Said she didn't know what was happening, and it was starting to hurt. I smiled just barely. That pain she was feeling? It was mine. Returned to sender. The power she'd held in silence, ignoring, withholding, dismissing, was now being mirrored back at her. She couldn't handle it. Because silence, when it's strategic, becomes a mirror. And most people can't stand a look. The thing about men like Jared, they think charm is a strategy. They think if they smile enough, wear the right cologne, and throw out words like vision and freedom, they're untouchable. But I don't play social. I play structural. I knew where he worked. Knew he was part of a tech startup still running on fumes and investor goodwill. Knew he'd used my wife, my resources, as part of his pitch. She thought I didn't know. Thought I hadn't noticed the consulting fees she slipped through our account. 2,000 here. 500 there. I wasn't mad. I was documenting. One afternoon, I drove downtown, parked 3 blocks away from his office, and waited. He stepped out around 5:15 p.m., phone pressed to his ear, laughing. Confident. I followed at a distance. Not to threaten. To study. He was sloppy, careless, and worst of all, loud. By the end of that week, I had what I needed. A former client of his, bitter and unpaid. A disgruntled intern, eager to vent over coffee. Screenshots. Emails. A trail of financial corners cut and compliance rules bent. I didn't send it to the police. I sent it to the investor board. From an anonymous account. No accusations. Just facts. Verified. Timed perfectly. I didn't sign my name. Didn't gloat. Just attached the documents. Labeled every folder clearly and let the avalanche begin. 2 days later, Jared went dark online. No posts. No stories. His LinkedIn quietly removed founder. The startup's website showed a maintenance message. The Instagram comments turned toxic. And my wife? She noticed. She called me 3 times in one day. No message. Just missed calls. By evening, she sent a long text. I don't know what's going on, but I'm scared. Jared's having a breakdown. Please, if you know anything, just talk to me. I left it on read. Because this wasn't revenge. It was redirection. She handed her time, energy, and trust to a man she barely knew, and now that man was sinking. And I wasn't the one pulling him down. I just removed the floaties. The next morning, I checked our old joint calendar. She'd canceled everything for the week. Meetings, lunches, book club, all gone. Her world was shrinking. Quietly, systematically. I hadn't touched her, but everything around her was beginning to collapse. And she didn't even know the difference between fate and design. That was intentional. Let her spiral. Let her wonder who saw what, who knew what. I had become the ghost in her machine, and I wasn't done yet. Her world had always been polished. Friends who toasted to self-love over bottomless brunches. A curated online presence of beach photos, inspirational captions, and filtered snapshots of wine glasses at golden hour. But perfection doesn't survive pressure. I didn't need to expose her. I just needed to make sure the truth had room to breathe. So I called Rachel, her oldest friend, the one who introduced us. We hadn't spoken in months. I invited her to coffee, said I needed advice. She showed up curious, cautious. When I told her what had happened, carefully, calmly, her face changed. Not angry, not shocked, disappointed. She said you were distant, Rachel whispered. Said you stopped trying. I didn't defend myself. Just pulled out my phone. Showed her a few screenshots. A few timestamps. The kind of evidence that doesn't scream, it whispers. Rachel sat back. Said nothing for a long minute. Then she nodded, slowly. I'm sorry, she said. I didn't know. She did now. I didn't ask her to spread it. I didn't need to. These things have a rhythm of their own. By the end of the week, subtle changes started appearing. Her usual group chat? Quiet. Her sister, once glued to her Instagram, now posting cryptic quotes about loyalty and choices. Her coworker unfollowed me, but liked an old photo from our wedding. People weren't choosing sides. They were simply stepping back. The silence around her grew thicker, more visible. That weekend, she hosted a birthday dinner for herself. I knew because she'd posted a photo of the cake, but only 2 wine glasses beside it. No guests in frame. No tags. The caption? Quality over quantity. It was the first time her post had more views than likes. I didn't engage. Just observed. I wanted her to feel it. Not humiliation, not scandal. Isolation. Because betrayal doesn't scream in a crowded room. It echoes in an empty one. My phone rang the next night. It was her mother. I didn't answer. She left a message, gentle, unsure, asking if I was okay. Said she missed me, that she was praying for us. I didn't call back. Not yet. Let them all sit in the questions. Let them weigh what they believed before and what they were beginning to see now. I wasn't forcing a narrative. I was letting the truth surface on its own. And she was still trying to hold her breath. There's a moment, after the noise fades, after the questions stop, when silence becomes unbearable. That's where she was now. Alone. Not because I exposed her, Not because I punished her, but because I stepped out of the frame and let the world adjust without me. I hadn't blocked her. I hadn't vanished. I simply stopped participating. The messages slowed, then stopped. The calls, once frantic, turned hesitant. She left voicemails like letters tossed into a void, hoping for a reply, fearing one might come. And I was just present, visible enough to remind her I was real, but distant enough to stay untouchable. One afternoon, I returned to the house, briefly. I needed a few files, a jacket, and the last box of documents. She was there. She didn't expect me. When she saw me, she froze. Her expression was a mess of relief and panic. She started to speak, but I didn't stop moving. I walked past her, opened the drawer, pulled out what I came for. She followed, quietly, said my name like a question, like a plea. I didn't answer. She watched as I packed the box, watched me pick up a photo frame, glance at it, and set it back down face first. No anger, no scene, just stillness. Her voice cracked when she said, "I miss you." I nodded, but didn't respond. She waited, hoping for something, anything. When I walked toward the door, she stepped in front of it. Not to block me, just to slow me. I looked at her, really looked, and I could see it. The sleepless nights, the breakdown of control, the cracks behind the mascara and foundation. I stepped around her without a word. That silence, it shattered her more than shouting ever could. Because now she understood. She wasn't in a fight. She wasn't being punished. She was being erased. Not from spite, from clarity. Later that night, she posted a photo, a book, a candle, a quote about healing. No comments. The next day, she deleted it. She tried reaching out to mutual friends. They answered politely, but short. She called her sister. I didn't have to ask. I saw the text exchange on the shared family calendar. "I love you, but I can't take sides." Even her therapist canceled on her. Conflict of interest, apparently. She was surrounded by the same walls, same bed, same kitchen, but they no longer responded to her the same way. Because home doesn't feel like home when the person who made it that way has stopped speaking. Eventually, they always want a conversation. Not closure. Control. It happened one evening, 2 weeks after I'd gone quiet. She asked me to meet her at the house, said it was about paperwork. I agreed. Not because I owed her anything, but because the final pieces were almost in place. I wanted her to see what distance really looked like when it stood across from her. I arrived just before sunset. The living room looked staged, like she'd cleaned too hard, lit a candle too intentionally. I recognized the playlist. Soft acoustic guitar, the one she used to play when we were good. She stood in the middle of the room like someone rehearsing a script. "I just want to talk," she said, barely above a whisper. I nodded. Let her. She said she didn't understand how we got here. Said she thought I was just going through something. That maybe she'd made mistakes, but didn't think I'd just leave. She used words like we, us, future. I didn't interrupt. When she ran out of explanations, she shifted tactics, asked if there was someone else, if I'd been seeing someone, if this was about revenge. I shook my head once. Calm, unshaken. That silence gutted her more than any truth could have. Because it told her I didn't need to justify anything anymore. She no longer had access to the part of me that explained himself. She stepped closer, said she missed me, that she was willing to work on things, willing to make changes. She was crying now. And still, I said nothing. Because I wasn't cold. I was done. I picked up the envelope I'd come for, checked it, and placed it in my bag. No rush. No drama. She looked at me like I'd become a stranger in my own skin. Like she was only just now seeing the version of me that didn't need her validation. "You're really not going to say anything?" she asked. I looked at her one last time, and quietly said, "There's nothing left to fix." That was the first and last sentence I'd spoken to her in over 3 weeks. And it landed harder than a scream. She didn't follow me to the door, didn't call after me, because deep down she knew. This wasn't an argument. This was an exit. Collapse doesn't come all at once. It comes in stages, missed calls, unanswered emails, invitations that stop arriving. That's where she was now. A month had passed since our last meeting, since I'd said that one final sentence, since I'd left her standing in the doorway of a home that no longer included me. I'd moved out completely. New apartment, different part of the city, new bank, new phone plan, new gym. Every corner of my life had shifted without noise, not out of spite, out of necessity. She, on the other hand, was unraveling. Mutual friends stopped reaching out. Not because I asked them to, but because silence has weight. And eventually, people notice who's not speaking and why. I heard she'd taken a leave from work. Stress-related. Her position wasn't terminated, but paused. That's how her HR rep phrased it when I ran into her at the grocery store. Rachel told me she'd tried reconnecting, that she'd shown up late to dinner, distracted, phone face up on the table, waiting for a message that never came. Said she cried when someone mentioned my name, then claimed it was allergies. Jared? He was long gone. His startup was officially dissolved. His Instagram wiped clean. The rumor was he'd left the state. Some new job. No forwarding address. And now, she stood alone. Not hated. Just unnoticed. The worst kind of exile. Her carefully curated life, the filtered posts, the weekend plans, the friends she thought would rally, had gone quiet. The kind of quiet that doesn't mean peace. It means absence. I didn't check on her. Didn't stalk her updates. I didn't need to. I'd built a system she no longer had the password to. Sometimes I'd walk through a park or sit at a cafe and think about how surreal it all felt. How a life once so intertwined had become background noise. She once made me feel replaceable. Now she understood what that actually meant. And me? I wasn't healed. Healing isn't linear. But I was whole. Not because I'd won, but because I never played her game. I simply left the table while she was still rehearsing her next move. I saw her one last time. Not planned. Not dramatic. Just life intersecting one final time before letting go completely. It was at the bookstore downtown. I was picking up a new journal, a habit I'd picked back up after the dust settled. She walked in as I was paying. Alone. No makeup. Hair pulled back. She looked smaller somehow. Not physically, but in presence. She froze when she saw me. Half lifted her hand like she wanted to wave, but stopped mid-motion. I nodded once. Calm. Detached. And turned back to the cashier. She waited outside. I knew before I stepped out that she would try to talk. I also knew I wouldn't stop walking. But when I stepped into the streetlight, she whispered my name. I turned. She asked if I hated her. I didn't answer right away. Just looked at her, really looked. She wasn't the woman who betrayed me anymore. She was the one left behind when the illusion broke. The one standing in the echo of her own decisions. And I wasn't angry. I was just done. No, I said. I don't hate you. Her eyes welled up. She stepped closer, but I didn't. I miss you, she said, voice cracking. I gave the faintest nod. Not an agreement. Just acknowledgement. Then I turned and walked away. Not with pride. Not with pain. Just with clarity. Because the real ending doesn't come with slammed doors or screamed apologies. It comes in silence. In the breath you take when you finally stop trying to explain yourself. She stayed behind on that sidewalk, wrapped in the chill of a night that had nothing to do with the weather. I didn't turn around. I didn't pause. I didn't disappear. I just stopped showing up where I wasn't respected. And that was louder than anything I could have said. Real men don't explode. They exit. Subscribe for more power stories.